Hi, I'm Governor John Hickenlooper. You're tuned in to Get More Smarter. Are you sure you don't have something better to do?
Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, are ready to go?
Welcome back to Get More Smarter. Earlier we had a great interview with Governor John Hickenlooper touching on a variety of subjects. And now I want to bring you the second part of that interview, which really deals mostly with this book, The Opposite of Woe, My Life in Beer and Politics. It's Governor Hickenlooper's memoir. It came out on May 24th. The governor gave us a little bit of a preview of some of the stories that are in there, and it sounds like a fun read.
Right. Tell me about your book you've got coming out, The Opposite of Woe, My Life in Beer and Politics. Would you call this a memoir?
It's a so-called memoir. I'm too young to have a memoir, I think. But it really is kind of about, it's a call to action for nerds around the world. That you grow up. I had Coke bottle thick glasses when I was a kid, and I acne before I was a teenager. I was scrawny. I was a kid that everybody teased, and third grade that everyone pointed at and made cry. Sad days. But I think too often we think that leaders are the big guys with the broad shoulders, the women that are fit and attractive, and that they are in the old cliches where the on the football team or they were cheerleaders. I think those stereotypes are all being washed out, and I think almost everyone has leadership in them. I think that it's a natural inclination of almost every person that they want to have a higher purpose than just themselves. And I think anybody can be a leader. So that's part of what the book is, just to kind of push out that anybody can be a leader.
Even Bill Cadman?
Absolutely, Bill Cadman.
Kidding.
Bill Cadman's a natural leader.
Yeah, so the process of writing this, it's you and Maximilian Potter. Is it a lot of conversations you've had? Do you write some of it and he writes some of it?
So Max, I knew when he used to work for 5280, and then when he left 5280, at that time my speechwriter left, so we hired him, and so for 2.5 years he was my speechwriter. And you're driving everywhere and giving these speeches, and I'd always wanted to do a memoir, a book somehow that would capture all these wild stories of my life, because in case a bolt of lightning comes down and burns me to a cinder, I want my son to have those stories. My dad died when I was 8. And he had all these great life adventures, and no one ever brought them together. And I'm going to guess the vast majority I'll never know. So Max knew that, and he convinced his agent, who went out and convinced Penguin Books that this would sell books, and they paid him enough money to take a year off. So he was the ghostwriter. He helped write it, but he had spent so much time with me.
Right.
And knew so many of my stories, so much of my life, that he would come in and we would meet evenings and weekends. We met sometimes during the week, and he wrote kind of a framework of it. And then, the last few months of, that we were trying to get the book done, basically every night, literally from whenever I'd get free from my last event, but like 9 o'clock, from 9 o'clock till midnight, I would be sitting there editing away and saying, no, that's not what they said. No, this is not what, and trying to make sure it was right, and also try to put, the anecdotes that I remember that I had never told him, putting them in so that it really becomes, it really is a collaborative work.
Charles Barkley once said that he was misquoted in his own autobiography. Are you confident that won't happen here?
I'm pretty darn sure. The one thing I made sure is that just because I do take that stuff seriously. There might have been one or two things that slipped through that are misstatements or typos, but I don't think so. And I had, in my contract that I got final say over the version of the book. Over my life, exactly.
Right.
So
good.
And it's it's one of those things where it does portray that just a normal person running their business. I was a small business guy. A normal person can come in and bring that kind of common sense of small business into government, and make it work better, right? I think that stuff we've done in the city, the stuff we've done in the state, generally most people are going to say, you can have, the city, after 8 years there were 7% fewer employees than when we started, and yet in almost every measure it was being more successful, right? And we were doing more things for our citizens. And that's what most people want, is smaller government that can do more.
You have a favorite anecdote from the book that maybe you could leave it to be continued? So we can make it a teaser.
Sure. I mean, there are a couple of things that it turned out when I was 45 years old, just through a fluke in Denver, I met Kurt Vonnegut, who had gone to college with my dad, and they were good friends. I mean, really good friends. So I have all these emails of him describing wonderful anecdotes about my dad that I never knew. He actually put me in his last book, Timequake. There's a little chapter about me and my dad and our relationship to Kurt Vonnegut.
Nice.
And then we did we put in, I mean, the one thing I am proud about is most memoirs or so-called memoirs, they're so sanitized. And we put in, I mean, all the stupid things I did when I was a kid, how embarrassing I was when I was just a complete dork. We kept it all in there. And, came back from college one time, and this is right when they first started the movie classification system. So they created X movies and R movies and PG movies. And I didn't know what an X movie was. I was coming home, and I was the youngest of 4 kids, so I was coming home to my mom, and she cooked this wonderful dinner. And I'd promised to take a friend of mine. We were going to go see the first X movie, one of the first X movies. And she was really hurt. She said she'd like to come. And I said, of course, well, if you want to come. And I didn't think anything about it. So I took my mother to see Deep Throat, which was a very X movie. And we're sitting there in the theater, and I said, should we leave? And she goes, no, I'm all right, in this little faint voice. And I said, we should go. And she goes, no, we should. My mom grew up in the Depression. Once she'd paid for a ticket, she was going to see whatever it was. Anyway, we kept it in the book. So, I mean, there are all kinds of, warts and all.
Right, that's great. What do you hope people take away from reading it?
Well, I think that sense that everyone's a leader, that we all do have this inclination to have a purpose higher than just ourselves, and that if you can persuade one person to think about things a little differently, maybe do something they weren't inclined to do, that makes you a leader. And I think we're all leaders in that sense. And I hope, by being truly candid in the book, and I talked about the first time I homebrewed at a friend's house up in the northern coast of Maine, and there's beer everywhere. It's not perfectly sanitary way of making beer.
But who is? Right?
Yeah, exactly, but who is? I mean, those things, by having them all in there, I wanted to let people have, that normal people can say, that guy's a mayor and a governor, and he did all the stupid stuff I did. I mean, I think, that was part of the goal.
That's really cool.